Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to be looking at all the decks that made day 2 at the Seville special event this weekend in Spain. There's some pretty interesting stuff here in day 2 as the meta continues to evolve further and further. We even have a very couple interesting decks that made top 8 in the special event, so I'm excited to take a look at them here and just see what else made day 2, what cool innovations were made, and what other archetypes are starting to pick up attention and speed right now in our current format. Now, if y'all are new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 23k subs. I'll leave a link to Limitless down below if you want to go check out the decks for yourself. So, the deck that won at the tournament was once again Gardevoir, which is now on a 3 major tournament winning streak here. It won Monterrey, it won Atlanta, and now it won Seville. So, this deck is on a roll right now. Gardevoir is, I don't know if it's the BDIF. I still think the BDIF is probably Dragapult, but Guardy is making a case to actually be the best deck in the format. It's won 3 majors in a row. Everyone thought Gardevoir was dead with rotation, but nope. This deck is still here, and it's still winning major tournament after major tournament. It's kind of crazy, actually, how it's won 3 tournaments in a row now. Looks like it's similar to what we saw Brent Tonneson play in Monterrey. Now, it was able to beat Dragapult in the finals. This is one of the reasons why Gardevoir is winning right now, is because it has a very favored Dragapult matchup. That's one of the main reasons why you'd want to play Gardevoir, is because it beats Dragapult pretty effectively. And Dragapult here obviously got second place. There is no Dusknoir in this build. There's Monkey Dory and Hawlucha. There's a Latias in the deck too, and some interesting energy counts here. 3 Luminous Energies and a Neo Upper Energy within the deck here as the A-Spec over Unfair Stamp. Also, double Jamming Tower, so a very interesting Dragapult 60 here, even playing 4 copies of Brock Scouting for max consistency on your setup. No Jock in the deck, 4 Iono, 4 Research, 4 Brock, 4 Boss, just straight up 4s of everything. So a very unique list here on Dragapult. And then the best part about this top 8, we saw Enzork in top 4. This is Enzork EX's best performance yet. I mean, as its own deck, not counting as a tech card in Henry Chow's Guardy deck. So Zork is definitely looking to be a decent archetype. Like I said, I did a video on this deck. I've been playing a bit of it. I think this has a great matchup into both Dragapult and Gardevoir. Like, it beats 2 of the best decks right now. Why would you not want to try it out? Now, Enzork is a very powerful archetype, but it is a little bit harder to play, and it also doesn't... It does have a weird, like, damage cap. Obviously, that's where I was trying to get at there, right? Reshiram is your biggest attacker in the early games, technically. The best part about the deck is Darmanitan. Darmanitan is the main attacker, in my opinion, overall. Like, you're trying to use Darmanitan to attack the most. It was cool to see it make top 4 here, nonetheless. It's an interesting build, only playing 1 Reshiram. It does have a Budew and a Cleffa in the deck. The Cleffa is unique to help set up your board. Then also has Prime Catcher as the A-Spec. The other thing, too, with Enzork and when building the deck is, what is the best A-Spec? Is it Prime Catcher, Max Belt, Stamp, Hero's Cape? A lot of the A-Specs are pretty good. But I like the list. 4 Research, 4 Iono seems pretty good. Just max consistency setup. Yeah, cool stuff. Got top 4. Really happy to see that. We had Terror Box also in top 4. This deck definitely was like the big boogeyman at the start of the format, but really has plateaued. But I think this deck is still fairly strong. It's still getting decent results. It did win another tournament this weekend, so that's cool. So this deck definitely is still existing. I think Terror Box is like very much a pretty solid play, but never going to be anything better than that. It doesn't always guarantee that it's going to beat both Gardevoir and Dragapult, right? The 2 big decks right now. But yeah, this Terror Box does pretty simple stuff. Pretty straightforward list here. Was able to make top 4. We had another Pult in top 8. Also playing no Dusknoir. Did have Genesect. I think going forward, and we'll talk a bit more about this as we get into the Milwaukee content sometime this week. We're going to see a lot more Dragapult Genesect now going forward. I think the Dusknoir-less build of Dragapult is starting to get phased out. For the past couple tournaments now, the top 8 has consisted mostly of the Dusknoir-less builds of Dragapult, meaning that this deck definitely is starting to get better with just no Dusknoir. I think that might just be the more common way you're going to see Dragapult being played now. And we had a Frostlass deck in top 8. Another really cool deck making top 8. We had Enzork and a Frostlass in the top 8 of the special event here. Really cool stuff. It was also a very straightforward Frostlass build, just playing the 3 Budew, the 4 Monkey Dory, the Maractus, the Blood Moon. No other, excess attackers, just playing the simplistic stuff. It's an interesting build, too. 3-4 Frostlass line's interesting. But, yeah, cool stuff. Just pretty normal Frostlass build. We see, like, 4 Research, 4 Iono, 4 Arvin, the Unfair Stamp, Double Devo. Just pretty normal build. But, yeah, really cool to see this deck make top 8. First time we've seen Frostlass do this well. So happy to see that. If you want to play Frostlass, really not a bad time to play it than right now. We had another Guardian top 8. Also playing the no Zoroark engine, does have 4 Bravery Charm and a Brilliant Blender. So very just straightforward, consistent list here, I guess. Just trying to get Drifloon off as quick as possible. Double Screamtail also. But yeah, 4 Bravery Charm is pretty crazy. Just all in on the Bravery Charms. But Bravery Charms is a really good card right now. We had another Dragapult in top 8. Once again, not playing Dusknoir. Can you continue to see a trend here at the Seville tournaments? Yeah, Monterey and Seville, the Snore Dragapult was nowhere to be seen. This build does play Genesect, but also has Latias in the deck again, and has a Maractus in the deck, which is an interesting inclusion. But I guess you can catch your opponent off guard with the Maractus. Some decks are cutting switch altogether, which sometimes you can just cheese wins with the Maractus trap, which is cool. So that was top 8 of Seville. I mean, yeah, we saw 2 really cool rogue decks in the top 8, but the rest of the top 8 was like, okay, Dragapult, Gardevoir, continuing their dominance in the format. Outside the top 8, we did have a Raging Bolt deck here. Another pretty powerful deck that it feels like it should be able to beat Dragapult, but again, that Guardy matchup isn't very good, in my opinion, and you do struggle a little bit into stuff like Goldengo. But I think that Raging Bolt is still like a fairly strong, consistent, powerful deck. It does what it does, and it needs to do. Like, it's a very straightforward deck, in my opinion, even though it does have a little bit more less straightforwardness now with like the Slitherwing and the Raging Bolt and stuff. But overall, like, the deck is strong and does what it needs to do better than most decks. And I think that's really what gives Raging Bolt a good name. We had a Joltik deck here in at the top 16. Also, this deck is continuing to see success post Monterey. I'm not surprised to see that this deck is still really powerful. I do expect to see a little bit more of this deck going forward, especially in Milwaukee this next weekend. This build does play a Gravity Mountain in the deck here, which is an interesting idea. So against Dragapult and Gardevoir, you can one-shot them with the Pikachu EX, which honestly isn't a terrible idea at all. So definitely a really cool deck for sure. There's a Flareon deck in top 16. This one does have an interesting inclusion of a Pidgeot line in the deck to make the deck a little bit more consistent. It's a bit harder to get Pidgeot out. That's like why I haven't really been using Pidgeot as much in my decks too, or been trying to think about it more. It sucks that, you know, Budew exists, right? Budew's so popular. It makes it harder to get the bird out. When you get the bird out, though, your deck's pretty good. But yeah, Flareon, still doing well. Again, this is a pretty good like anti-meta deck right now. Not surprised seeing another top 16. Sylveon, still really powerful. Flareon, still a really good card. Just another very strong deck with some cool disruptive plays. Another Guardian top 16 with a Genesect in it. So trying to also combat the unfair stamp in the Energy Search Pro. Honestly, not a bad inclusion. Guardian with Genesect does seem pretty powerful right now. That does make your matchups into Gardevoir or Dragapult and Goldengo even better. Specifically Goldengo. I think the Genesect makes your Goldengo matchup like super free. Like it feels like it will be harder to lose to Goldengo when you have a Genesect in your deck with a Bravery Charm on. It's kind of broken, actually. Another Joltik deck here in top 16. Pretty similar to what we just saw. It does have that Gravity Mountain also in the deck for the Pikachu. Has a Galvantula and stuff. We got another Dragapult here in top 16. Once again, no Dusknoir. So, yeah, the Dusknoir Dragapult deck is on its way out. It looks like, as we saw, yet another Pult with no Dusknoir in it do well in this tournament. Place a Genesect, has the Monkey Dory in there. Some Luminous Energies also in the deck. And then finally, in the top 16 here, we had another Zoroark deck here, played by Fabian, who is a pretty good player, so it's cool to see him on this deck. Now, this build's a bit different than the one in top 4. There's a little bit more going on. We do see in this build that there is the Maractus and also the Budew. And another tech card is that Hoopa EX, which is kind of a weird card to see, but it is an interesting idea. It does attack Cornerstone Ogerpon with Energy Crush. It does 50 damage for each energy on all your opponent's Pokemon. Can be good in other situations too, not just like to attack the Cornerstone. Yeah, really cool concept for sure to play the Hoopa over, like, say, something like the Okidogi. This build also plays some Cypher Maniac in there to help guarantee any card you want with the Zoroark's trade ability. Makes sense. It's got the Power Glass in there. Prime Catcher also being the A-spec of choice here in Fabian's list. So we have 2 Zoroark decks now in top 16 here of this tournament. So if you want to build this deck and try it out, there's 2 different variations of the deck here to give a try. And then in top 16, we had another Terra Box deck here. This one does have a Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon in the deck and a Jamie Tower and Brock Scouting. So a little bit more of a techier build, but Terra Box still having some decent results here in the top 16. All right, outside the top 16, there was another Guardy here, playing the Seeger Box, Triple Monkey, got the Clef in there. It kind of looks like the Brent Tonneson build. And we had another Dragapult here, once again, with the Genesect and no Dusknoir in top 32. And we had another Pikachu Joltik Toolbox deck here. This one doesn't play the Gravity Mountain. It does have a Vitality Band in the deck, though, and a couple of Bravery Charms. Another Raging Bolt deck here, playing the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon as a tech card. And we have another Joltik deck playing at the Genesect. So also trying to incorporate the Genesect in there to help slow down decks like Dragapult and Goldengo from kind of getting an upper hand against you with their A-Spec. So, I don't know, man. Genesect's pretty good right now. Any deck that can play Genesect, I think is pretty powerful. So we're seeing Guardian Joltik play it now. It's kind of crazy. Another Goldengo deck here. Or the first Goldengo deck in the top 32 here, I guess, to look at. And it was actually the Dragapult Goldengo deck with the Genesect. So this is kind of the Grant Shen build we saw at Monterey. We're seeing it do well here. Also, it's a bit of a different build, obviously. Playing 2 Dragapult, EX in the deck. Has a Crispin, 2 Cypher Maniac, Rocky Helmet. I don't hate it. It's pretty solid little Goldengo list here. It's got the Artisan in there. No Jamming Towers, like the big thing missing, I guess. But you do have the Rocky Helmet, which I guess can make up for it. Just against Guardy, it's nice to have. But yeah, more Goldengo Genesect action. And I like the Dragapult build. I think it's decent. We had a Poison Archaludon deck here in top 32. Continuing to show that it might be the best way to play Archaludon. It's the one that we've been seeing have the best results so far. And Poison Archaludon can definitely cheese some wins right now where you can get donks. And, I mean, the deck's power level is really good. Just the extra damage you get from all the poison stuff does make it quite a big threat. We had another Dragapult here. Once again, we see no Dusknoir in this build, as that build is starting to get phased out. Got another Flareon build here. Looks like more of a straightforward one. It's got the Sparkling Crystal in the deck here. Let's see, A-Spec. We had a Pulsar in top 32, also playing Genesect. So, yeah, a lot of decks right now are playing Genesect. Kind of crazy to see. Genesect stocks are going way up right now, in my opinion. And I like Pulsar. I think this deck's pretty powerful. I don't know if it's better than just playing normal Dragapult, though. Like, the Charizard is nice, and from what I've heard, it's supposed to help against Gardevoir. It's supposed to fix your Guardy matchup. I don't know about that. Haven't really put much time in with Pulsar yet. But I do like it, and I think the idea of Genesect is really cool. If I was playing this deck right now, I would probably be playing a Genesect in my deck also, because I think Genesect is just way too good right now not to play. This build only plays 2 Arven, though, and does have a Research in the deck, so that's interesting. Another Joltik deck here, doing pretty good. Playing the Maractus in the deck, looks like what we saw with Tyler Matthews' build at Monterey. We have our first look at a Dragapult Dusknoir deck here in the top 32. The deck's still doing decent. It's just not as common as it used to be now, I guess, which is very interesting to see. This one does have a Tasigiri in the deck. All right. We have another Dragapult here. Once again, playing the Genesect and the Monkey Dory. We have another Guardy here. Similar, yeah, literally the Brentonison 60. All right. We got another Terra Box with an Iron Thorns in the deck. So we've been seeing a little bit of that Iron Thorns in Terra Box. And in this build here in Seville, we do see has the Iron Thorns in there for the extra bit of disruption. Got another Enzork here in top 32, so that's pretty cool. 3 in top 32 is kind of crazy. This build's a bit different than the other builds, so it's playing a different A-Spec. It's got Precious Trolley as the A-Spec. Also playing Squawkabilly in the deck to help get your setup a little bit more online. And then also plays a Redeemable Ticket, which is an interesting inclusion. Still plays the Arven and the Iono engine with the Cypher Maniac and stuff. But yeah, pretty decent little 60 here. I like it. Cool stuff. Another Joltik deck here outside the top 32. And then I got another Dragapult, no Dusknoir, another Gardevoir here. Yeah, pretty similar to the Brentonison build. We got a Raging Bolt, once again. Playing a Glass Trumpet, it's interesting for extra energy. And then it's got Squawk in there, Jamming Tower, yeah, normal stuff. Okay. And then we got another Goldengo. This one is Goldengo to Dunsparce. The build that I think is starting to become less popular. The Dunsparce is still decent, though. You still get that extra bit of draw with Runaway Draw. And then you have the Dunsparce EX. Also playing the 1-1 Scizor. I feel like if you're playing the Dunsparce deck right now, you probably want to play the Scizor. I like the Scizor personally in the Goldengo to Dunsparce deck. Yeah, pretty straightforward Goldengo stuff. And then we have another Goldengo deck here with the Scizor. More of the straightforward approach. It's got the Baby Dango in there still. The 1-1 Scizor, Vengeful Punch, 3 Ciphers, the bundle in there. Yeah, it's kind of like the Bodhi build a little bit. Just a couple changes made. Another Joltik deck here. The Maractus in there. And we got another Raging Bolt here. And once again, then we got a couple Charizards, which is interesting. We see a Charizard to Dunsparce Pidgeot deck here. So I think Charizard, Pidgeot to Dunsparce is an interesting concept. You got that extra bit of draw with the Dunsparce to support your Pidgeot. And Pidgeot's not as reliable anymore. Just again, with the threat of Budu, it's just harder to get Pidgeot out. It's just that Charizard Pidgeot deck is just not as strong anymore. But it's still worth playing, in my opinion. And we see this build is played. Also playing Max Belt as the A-Spec, which I do like a lot. I think Charizard's best A-Spec right now is Max Belt. Also playing Fan Rotom to help set up your board a little bit. Find your Pidgeys and Dunsparces. That's cool. We got another Zard here. Once again, playing the Dunsparce. Similar 60. Maybe not the exact 60, but it is pretty similar. It's got the Pidgeot line in there. The Max Belt does the A-Spec, the Fan Rotoms and stuff. Then we got another Guardy here. The Seeker Box. Another Pult with the Genesect, Monkey Dory. Then we have an Archaludon Zoroark deck doing well. Very interesting concept here, though. Playing a 2/2 line of Zoroark as opposed to a heavier line of it. A little bit more thinner on the Zoroarks, but does have some more text. Got the Genesect and the Relicanth in there. I like Genesect. If I was playing the Archaladon Zoroark deck right now, I would probably also be playing Genesect, just because like the Goldango matchup is not great. So having the extra addition for the Goldango matchup makes sense. But it's not bad. Just the lack of Zoroark is a little sketchy, I guess. But overall, it's like a decent little take here on the Bridge Zoro deck, which I think is a pretty solid deck. Another Goldango build here with the Scizor. Same 60s one we just looked at. Then we got another Goldango deck here. Just looks like the Bodhi build here. Yeah, the Bodhi build. No other fluff. And we have another Goldango deck. Once again, Dango Dragapult here. The Grant Shen build. Yeah, still has the Genesect in there. The 2/2/1 Dragapult line. Or 2/2 Dragapult line. 2/2/1 Dragapult line, I should say. Anyways, slacking in top 64 is kind of crazy. It was a slacking Pidgeot deck here with a Dusknoir and a Grand Tree. So really cool to see this. I think slacking does have a lot of potential. It probably gets better next set with Destined Rivals. Getting the new Watchtower Stadium is looking pretty juicy for slacking. But yeah, definitely a really fun little deck here. I'm glad to see it make top 64. Really cool stuff. A lot of stage 2s, but again, with the help of Grand Tree and Team Evo, it's not that bad. Just Budew is a bit of a threat, but Slacking's a very powerful card that can definitely be very threatening. Also, I like the idea of playing a Black Belt in the deck, so that Great Swing one-shots Dragapult and Gardevoir. And we got another Dragapult here once again on the Genesect. We got another Guardy here. This one's got a Klefki and a Squawkabilly in the deck. All right. And then we got another Dragapult Dusknoir. So only 2 so far we've looked at. A couple more Terror Boxes here to look at. Pretty straightforward build. That one. And then we got another Terror Box here. This one does play the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon in the deck. We got another Guardy here to look at. Straightforward stuff. And we have another Moon deck to look at. Well, the first Moon deck, I should say. But yeah, this one is the Poison Roaring Moon deck. So not playing the Dunsparce build that we saw at Monterey. Just went back to the Poison approach. Which I don't think is bad either. I think both builds of Moon are pretty solid. This one's a little bit more aggressive. And has donk potential, right? Which is like a bit more of an advantage. And then also, another deck in top 64, Hydreigon EX. So Hydreigon and Slacking in top 64 of the Seville tournament is kind of crazy. These results were very wild, man. We saw Slacking, Hydreigon, and 3 Zoroark decks in top 64. Honestly, pretty insane. This Hydreigon list looks like the one we've been seeing a little bit online with the Budews, the Pidgeots. It does have a couple of the Dunsparces in the deck, though, for a little bit of extra draw support to back up the Pidgeot, which I don't hate either. Has a new upper energy as the ace spec. I think Hydreigon is strong. Obviously, it sucks that like Dragapult can be sketchy, but Obsidian is really good right now, and I think if you can find a way to make Hydreigon's Obsidian attack more consistent, you got yourself a pretty powerful little deck here. So really cool to see that in top 64. Another Guardy here. This one's on the Brilliant Blender. Another Raging Bolt. It's a very thin line of owls, but it's fine. And then we got another Dragapult with Dusknoir. Another Raging Bolt below that. Once again with the Noctowls. And then we got another Goldango Dragapult here. Once again, looks like the Grand Chen build that we saw. We got a Terrapagos deck. So this definitely has fallen off a little bit. This was the highest placing Terrapagos deck in the tournament. Terror Box is doing pretty good, but Terrapagos, Cornerstone, Ogerpon was on the decline a little bit. I think that's just more natural. I mean, Dragapult is not the best matchup, though I think your matchup into the Dusknoir Dragapult build is a little bit better. But yeah, also your Guardy matchup isn't very good either. That's like the other issue with playing Terrapagos right now. You don't really have the best time into Gardevoir. But Terrapagos is still like fine. Just we definitely are starting to see it fall off a little bit. Another Zoroark deck here doing well. This one also playing the Prime Catcher. A couple Brock Scouting in there. Another Terrapagos deck, once again on the Cornerstone Ogerpon. Just have the Genesect in there too. And we have a Charizard Terrapagos deck here in day 2. That's cool to see. I think this deck is really powerful, but the problem is it's just hard to set it up when you're constantly getting a Budew. This build is a bit different than what we've been seeing, though. There's no Ghost or anything. It's relying a little bit more on the Wellspring Ogerpon to help with getting around certain threats with Sparking Crystal and Crispin, which I don't hate either, so it's not a bad approach. We got another Dragapult Dusknoir here, another Terrapagos deck, and we got another Joltik deck here. Cool stuff. All right. Another Dragapult, the Genesect, another Dragapult Dusknoir, just click through that, and then we got another Dragapult here with the Genesect, and then, a Hobzation in day 2. It's cool to see another Monkey Dory spread approach to this deck here. No other interesting tech cards, but yeah, Hobzation with the Monkey Dory, the Devo and stuff. Cool. Like to see it. Still cool to see Hobzation make day 2. Got another Flareon here in day 2. Also, and then we got another Terrapagos Cornerstone deck here in day 2. Haven't seen the Volcanion build yet, so we'll see if that pops up at all. And we got Guardy once again. Another Joltik deck here. And then here's one that's cool. We got a Control deck in day 2. So Control definitely hasn't really made a name for itself in this format yet, like the last format where Control was a lot stronger. Control is definitely fallen off with rotation. It lost a lot of support, right? Also, Pidgeot is a bit harder to utilize right now with Budew and stuff being popular, but Control can still work. The format is very fragile right now, I feel like, so a lot of decks don't really tech for Control, so I feel like you can get a lot of cheap wins with this deck. A lot of interesting control cards in here. Like we see the Knackley, which is really good against Pokemon with a fighting resistance. You can infinitely trap them with Corner, which is the idea there. And also playing the Altaria EX, which has an ability where you can heal 20 from each of your Pokemon. So I guess the idea is against Dragapult. Sound like how you'd play Radiant Serena in the deck. Against Dragapult, they Phantom Dive you. If you can like trap something, you can heal your board and then reset all that Phantom Dive damage, which is really interesting. So that's a really cool inclusion. It's a very interesting control deck. Definitely might have to try it out. I haven't really played Control in a while. And this new format, Control does play a little bit different, obviously. So yeah, it's really interesting. And then we got the Milotic in there to stop Turo and stuff. Got Blissey once again here. This one's a bit different than the one we saw being played by Fernando. It does have the Giraffes in there, which does help a little bit more into like the big basic decks like Terra Box and Raging Bull, which are obviously not the best matchups for Blissey overall, I want to say. So the draft definitely helps out there. Another Raging Bolt, a couple more Guardies here to look at. Once again, a Secret Box, and then once again on the Secret Box. We got a couple of Joltik decks here we can quickly look at. That one's also got Gravity Mountain. Another Goldengo, or Dragapult with Genesect. Then we have a Goldengo to Dunsparce. Hold on. We got Carnivore above, below that. And then we got Goldengo to Dunsparce. Here we go. Another Goldengo to Dunsparce. Playing the Baby Dango, the Dunsparces, the Jamming Tower and stuff. The normal Goldengo stuff. Yeah, and the Gardevoir we looked at. Another Dragapult. The Genesect. Another Tropicos deck. Once again on the Cornerstone. And then we got another Flareon here. Cool stuff. It's got the Unfair Stamp in there. We got a Gardevoir below that with a Secret Box. Same 60 as like Brent Tonneson, I guess. Another Pult. That one didn't have a Genesect. And then we have another Goldengo here. Yo, let's go, baby. You love to see it. It's the Goldengo Rev Room deck I played to Atlanta. I didn't even realize that. Yo, that's hype, bro. See, I still like this deck. I think Goldengo with Ceruledge is still pretty solid. A couple changes made from the list I played. It looks like got the Baby Dango in there, which, honestly, if I were to play this deck again, this list, I would probably play the Baby Dango. The Briar is really cool, but honestly, you don't always use Briar. I think it's still worth trying out the Briar, but we can see it was cut here, which I don't hate. I mean, cutting Briar for Baby Dango is probably the cut you would have to make, unless you want to cut a Nest Ball, but 2 Nest Ball feels very sketchy in my opinion. I was not a fan of 2 Nest Ball. Like, 3 Nest Ball felt very consistent. I think Ceruledge is still worth playing. It's still a very good attacker. One thing I really liked about the Ceruledge in the Dango deck was, even if I wasn't using Ceruledge with Briar, like, it was a great way to close the game out. A lot of games came down to me finding Boss's Order in Atlanta, and a lot of the games were like, I need Boss, but I'm not going to be able to use Goldengo to take a KO because I just don't have enough energy resources left. But I have Ceruledge, which can do a nice solid like 210 damage, and oh, look at that, I can go Boss for game with Ceruledge. It came up a lot, so I really do like this deck still. Like, maybe I'll run it back in Milwaukee, who knows. It just kind of sucks that like Genesect is such a threat, right? That's like the only issue with this deck. But cool, congrats to them for making day 2 with the deck. I love to see it. Another Terra Box. And we got Poison Archaludon here once again. Doing pretty good. And then, yo, what's that? A Copperajah in day 2? Oh my goodness. The Copperajah Monkey Dory Archaludon deck made day 2. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, really cool deck. The one thing I will say is this is, what, Copperajah's first time on a day 2 Limitless page. Love to see it. Yeah, it's awesome. This deck is really fun. I got destroyed by it when I was testing for Atlanta because I hit on the ladder and it bodied me. And I was playing Goldengo, which you'd think is favored. I really like this deck. Maybe you got to make a video on it. We'll see. And Goldengo to Dunsparce once again. Then we got another Dragapult here. No Genesect in that one. And we got Raging Bolt once again. Then a bunch more Dragapults to look at. We got Dragapult Dusknoir. Dragapult again. The Neo Upper is back. All right. Another Dragapult Dusknoir. And then finally, once again, another Dragapult with no Dusknoir. We see a Slowking in day 2 here. That's really cool. I just did a video on Slowking today. If you want to go check out the Slowking video, definitely go watch it. It's cool to see that make day 2. We'll probably continue to see it make day 2. It's not like the most strong, consistent deck, but it works. It works. Not surprised to see it in day 2. Another Joltik deck here. Then we got another Raging Bolt. Another Dragapult Dusknoir. Another Dragapult Goldengo here. Looks like the G-Shen build. Then we got Poison Archaludon once again. The Secret Box. Another Dragapult Dusknoir. And then below that, we got yet another Archaludon Poison deck. And then below that, we got another Hobbsation deck. Once again, playing the Monkey Dory and the Devo and stuff. And we got Terra Box here on the Iron Thorns again. Strikeable Dusknoir above that we can look at. All right. And then we got another Goldengo to Dunsparce here. Once again, playing the 1/1 Scizor. Then We got a Flareon Noctowl once again here in day 2. Another Dragapult Dusknoir. Another Dragapult Genesect. And then we have another Zoroark deck in day 2. This one did play the Prime Catcher once again. So Prime Catcher looks like it was the most common A-Spec in the End Zoroark decks that we saw this weekend. So that's cool to see. And we have an Archaludon Dunsparce deck here doing well. Is this better than the Zoroark build? This is the question. But I don't know. I like it, though. I don't think Archaludon Dunsparce is terrible. The extra bit of draw is nice. You can free up some bench space, obviously, for like Relicanth, which allows you to lean more into that. And the A-Spec is Max Belt, too, I saw. All right, another Dragapult Dengo, or Dragapult Dusknoir, sorry. Gardevoir. All right. Another Dragapult with the Genesect. Another Dragapult Dusknoir. Just BDIF, man. What a disgusting deck. We got another Raging Bolt here. Another Dragapult below that with a Liliesco Fairy. That's interesting. I don't hate it. It's pretty good in the mirror, I guess, to one-shot of the opposing Dragapults. You have to probably put a Bravery Charm on it, though. And then we got another Charizard Pidgey on day 2, so decent amount of Charizard made day 2 here. I mean, not counting Pulsar, we had Charizard Noctowl in day 2. We had a couple Charizard and Dunsparces, and then we just had like the pure Charizard Pidgeot deck make day 2. That's cool to see. It's got the Max Belt in there. The supporter count's interesting. 3 Brock and 3 Jock for setup, as opposed to like Heavy Arven and Heavy Ionos. That's very cool. Bit of a different take there. Another Archaludon deck. This was like Archaludon toolbox, I guess you want to call it that. You got the Scizors, the doubles, and the 1/1 Toadstool to help against Goldengo. Speaking of Goldengo, we got Dengo Dragapult below it. Then finally, rounding things out, we got Gardevoir on the Zoroark. So the first Guardy Zoroark deck here to look at in day 2. Raging Bolt, another Guardy below that, and then another Dragapult Dusknoir, and then finally, last deck here to look at. Another Guardy, and once again, playing the Zoroark. Kind of crazy to see this one at the bottom of the day 2. You'd think this deck would be a lot better with the Win Henry Chow had. But yeah, that's really cool. Some very cool stuff in day 2. Control, Copper Raja, Slacking, Hydreigon, and a bunch of End Zoroark, and even that deck making top 8. Really cool stuff. We can look at the statistics here of what was going on here in day 2. Like 30% meta share for Dragapult, it looks like in day 2. 30% for Guardy. Goldengo had a pretty good meta share too. 5%. Joltik was pretty popular. Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Again, this was the special event, so it wasn't as big as like a regional, obviously. It's 817 players, but still worth looking at nonetheless. These results, in my opinion, will still have an impact as to what goes down in Milwaukee this upcoming weekend, which I'm excited for. So I'm going to have some Milwaukee content here coming out on the channel in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. I'll leave a link to the limits down below if you want to go check out any of these decks for yourself and maybe build them and try them out. That'll be for me. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe down below. Catch y'all later. Bye-bye.